it online, and people also like to use it in supervision or one-to-ones or team meetings or unit meetings. So occasionally we do a special, and hoping this will open. So we've recently done a special on the ICON project, which is around safeguarding infants. So, and it focuses very much on crying babies. So again, we've done a 7-minute briefing there, which gives an outline of what the project is about. So that's the 7-minute briefing. I'm aware that I didn't mention the recording. We have actually put the recording on now. If people don't want their to be seen, then if you want to turn your cameras off, that's absolutely fine. It's,
yeah, sorry, Helen, I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Okay. Well, no, I just realised, and I know Zahida had mentioned it, and I said I'd mention it and then didn't. Okay, so that's safeguarding matters. If you want to be put on our mailing list, then and receive alerts when it's next comes out, then if you email that address, then we can send that. You know, we can make sure that you get a copy or the link to the copy on the website. So I'm now going to hand over to Angela. Are you there, Angela?
Yeah, I'm here.
Lovely.
That's a relief.
Yeah, I'll just leave the slide up if you like, and then if you just want to talk to it, is that okay?
That is great. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Philomena protocol. Some here might have already heard of it, some might not. It's a process that was first introduced by Durham Police, and people who work with adults may have heard of the Herbert protocol, so it's very much along the same lines as that, but it's for use with young people, predominantly young people in care who go missing, but I would advocate its use for anyone really who goes missing. And the idea behind it is it's a 2-part form, which I can show you in just a moment. And that form gives a framework, a basis for whoever that young person lives with, who is at risk of going missing again, to sit down in advance of them going missing and have a conversation and talk about the reasons why they might be going missing, with a view that through those conversations, those reasons can perhaps be addressed. But in filling in the form, it covers all of the things that are going on for that young person, what they look like, who their friends are, what their social media accounts and things are, so that if they then do go missing, all of that information, sorry, my screen's going a bit funny, I don't know if anyone else is, all of that information is then readily available to the person that might need to report them missing. So if they are in a care home, then it could be that the person who reports them missing doesn't know that young person very well. Maybe they're covering from somewhere else and never met that person until that day. But if the form has been completed in advance, they will have all the information about that young person that will enable them to report them missing with the best chance of finding them quickly. So if I just bring up the form then to show you, this is what it looks like, and I'll put into the chat in a minute the links for where you can find this. So just come down here. So yeah, as you can see, part 1, it's
Angela,
filled in by the person that the
Angela, I don't think they can see it. Do you want me to click on?
I might need, I haven't got permission to share, that's why. Sorry, can I be given permission to share?
Yeah, just
And me too, Helen. We don't have permission to share again now.
oh,
If I don't, I can email it to Helen and perhaps she can share it.
no, well, I can share it on my screen, but I'm where are we? Here we go. Make a presenter. There we go. Change.
Oh, I have the power now, thank you.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right, can everybody see that? If someone can shout up and tell me.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so it's a Word document, and as we come down, it's got part 1, and it makes it clear, you know, you fill in this data, and whoever that young person lives with fills in this form, and they keep it themselves. They don't need to share it with the police or anybody at that point. They just keep hold of it and make sure that you review it periodically so that it's always up to date, so that at the point that it's needed, it's got the right information, and you're not sharing information that doesn't need to be shared at that point. Some basic information about the young person, their preferred names. A photograph is really, really helpful. I won't read out all the boxes, but previous addresses where they've lived, because potentially they may go there. Schools they attend or have attended, and who the staff were there, because that might give us people we can talk to whilst they're missing. Reasons they've previously gone missing, significant dates that could trigger missing episodes, places that they go, habits and hobbies, medical information. Oh, sorry, skipped down too far. Descriptive information, information about any access to money that they might have, mobile phone, public transport access. It's quite in depth. It obviously does take time to do, which is why it's important to do in advance when people have the time. This page is for putting in any people that they might visit whilst missing, any associates they have, family members they might visit, and use as many of those lines as possible as they need. So that's the end of part 1, and then, as I say, hold on to that form, keep it up to date, but importantly keep having those conversations, and that's the aim of it really, is to get why are they going missing, so that support can be put in place. And then part 2 is only filled in if they go missing, and it's the circumstances then of what's happened on that occasion. And then I won't go through it all, but if you come to the end, it tells you where to send it basically when it's completed. So once it's all filled in, if a copy of this gets sent to our force control room at Leicestershire Police, and also the team that look for missing people, missing persons team at leicester.police.uk, that then gives them all the information that the police may well need to help find that young person quickly. So it sounds very simple, straightforward, because it is, and it's just something that we would ask everybody, you know, who works with young people to try and use. We did some training last week. I don't know if anyone here was at it, with all the children's homes and many 16+ placements as well, where we first told them about this. So it is quite new to Leicestershire, but it is deemed sort of best practice nationally, and has had good results in other areas. So if we can start making use of it here as well, hopefully we can prevent young people from going missing, but if they do go missing, we can find them much more quickly. So I'm just going to put, I've just seen a question, could this be used with vulnerable adults at all? I mean, yeah, of course. It's been designed for use with young people purely because that was the sort of demographic of people that was noticed was going missing repeatedly. But of course, definitely, I believe it could be used for anybody. It's just got to be somebody who works with them and knows them, that fills it in, and then someone who's going to be in that position that's going to report them missing at some point, if that's likely. I'm just going to go and get the links to put into the chat so that everybody can find these online, but they're on our police website, and they're also on the LLR Safeguarding Partnership pages under the information sharing section. Let me just, yes, Herbert Protocol. was indeed brought in for, I think, people with dementia predominantly, to locate them quickly. And again, it's about getting that information in advance, isn't it? And having it to hand when the emergency happens. So hopefully you can see in the chat the links that I've just put there. Someone that spoke up then. If I just show you on my screen again. So that Leicestershire Police link takes you to this screen, and it just gives a bit of background information about what the Philomena protocol is, explains again when you fill it in who holds on to it, and then a link to the form itself. And then, oh, excuse me, I'm still sharing. Go back to that screen. Yeah, and then on the LLR Safeguarding website, the link would take you to here. You open up information sharing, and along with lots of other documents, it is here. Look, Philomena protocol there. So that's where you can get the form. But once you've got it, you could just save it to your machine, and then you've got it from there. So that's basically what I wanted to tell everyone about today. So unless there's any questions, I think I can hand over a little bit early to the next speaker.
We've got a couple of minutes for questions if people have a specific question.
Can I just ask if you've got any examples of it being used in practice, and how it's you know, what the uses of it has been?
So like I say, it's brand new to Leicestershire. We have one example so far because it is brand new. So we've literally received our first one yesterday, having discussed it with a particular home, and it's really good. It's really in depth, and it's got a list of all the friends, associates and locations of this individual. So our next step now is to sit down with the staff at that children's home and work out our trigger plan, in terms of, you know, fast track lines of inquiry, that when that child next goes missing, what's the home going to do, what's Leicestershire Police going to do. It involves another county, so, you know, we can involve people from that other county and say what are they going to do. But we've all got the information now, so there's other things that the police can do in the background, with things such as, you know, financial information, phone information. That the aim is to get that information shared between all the people that are involved. So normally, like I say, you would hold on to that form until it's needed, until they go missing. But in this particular case, it's been a tool that we're now using. The home have gathered the information, and now we're going to work together to come up with a plan. But like I say, it is brand new to Leicestershire, but this is what we've been given the feedback from nationally, is where it's in use, people are being found much quicker because they've got the information up front.
Great, thank you.
Can I also ask, Angela, if if it's a child in care, foster care, who would hold that document? Would it be the child social worker? Would the foster carers have all those details of the child's history and things like that? Would they hold the document?
Yeah, I think in filling it in, it could be a collaboration, couldn't it, between the social worker, who will probably hold a lot more historical information, but the foster carers who've hopefully got that relationship with the young person and can have the conversations, and ultimately are going to be the ones that report them missing in the first instance. So I think they need to hold the document themselves, so they've got it to hand and can quickly share it with the police as and when it's needed. But in terms of filling it out, that's why it's good to do in advance, because you've got the time to ask questions of all the people that hold that information. But I would say in that case, foster carers hold it.
Thank you.
Angela, it's Jazz from Youth Offending Service. Can I ask you a question? So Leicestershire County Council have a missing persons scheme as well, where, you know, we have a project where we have young people that are missed. When they're missing, we have like workers that go out and, you know, sort of when they return. Do you work
interviews? Yeah.
with Leicestershire County Council?
Sorry, I talked over the last part of that. You said you've
Sorry,
got
are you
staff
working
who
in
do the missing
conjunction?
return interviews.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
As in, are
Sorry.
you asking if they would do it?
No, as in, do you so yeah, they do the returns interview, but do you work in conjunction or alongside with the LSS system?
So they're obviously independent doing those interviews, but when they've completed them, they do come through to us. So yes, that and the social workers. So by that information coming out of the return interviews and going back to the social workers, when the Philomena protocol is filled in, you would hope that the information that's come back from those missing return interviews will be fed in to that process.
Right. Okay. And I suppose that helps in with your sort of like stats and where where you've got vulnerabilities and okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what we're sharing at the moment because I've got two screens and I'm not sure what's. Are you still sharing?
I'd hope not. I don't think so.
No, there's nothing on the screen.
Okay. And am I sharing? No. Good.
No.
Okay. I just wanted to say that there is the joint protocol, children and young people missing from home or care joint protocol, and that's in the children's procedure manual. So and I think somebody's actually put that link in the
I was just about to do that
chat.
actually. So has it been done already? I can put that in there if not.
It's on the PowerPoint.
On the slide, isn't it? But I don't know if you can cut and paste from the slide. So if I just put it in the chat as well.
Okay.
I can't share at the moment, Helen, if it's me next.
Okay. I'm going to
or is it?
Let you I thought I'd given you permission, but oh, Angela, thanks very much for that. Thank you.
That's okay. Please just share the word and let's get everyone using it. That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, while people are just getting ready, can I just ask a question? The slides, people are asking about the slides, will be sent them? Well, it's not very easy to send them out to people because of the way we've set up today, but we could put the slides on the Safeguarding Matters newsletter webpage. Would that be okay if I posted that link?
I think we do have a an attendance list, which will have some people's emails on, but not everybody's, because I think it depends, how they've logged in. So, yeah, I'm just going to go to give Liz the power again, hopefully.
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking, I haven't got it yet, but when I do, I'll put it up on screen. So I'm just going to be talking about a new resource that we've developed, and it's been developed between the Adult Safeguarding Board and the Children's Partnerships. And it's something that we want you to use by yourself or with your teams or with individuals if you're a manager. So I'm hoping you can see that. And you can see it's a it's a PDF format.
We can't see the PDF yet. No.
Is it coming?
Yeah.
Okay, so
sort of.
Only sort of, right.
Yeah, you've got lots of random stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to move all these random things that way.
Randomness.
Okay, I'll just move the toolbars as well. Right, so this is a live PDF and it's called Building Confidence in Practice resource, and it's called that because we want you to use it, like I said, in your teams or individually, group or individual supervision or for your own development. So I'm not going to talk about professional curiosity per se, because all the information's here. And the point is we want you to just read it here. And it's across adults and children's, for people working frontline or anybody who feels they can use it. So it is a document we want you to use. We developed this from a resource we saw that had been done by Waltham Forest Strategic Partnership, and we've also used materials that Manchester Safeguarding Partnership used. So we're not reinventing the wheel, but we really like this format, and we hope that you do. We've already done one on resistant behaviour, which of course includes a disguised compliance, and then this is our second on professional curiosity, because that's come out of a few of our recent reviews that Helen was talking about before. So if I navigate forward, it's going to be very slow now. Oh, that's not the right page. How bizarre. Right, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Right, okay, so I should have just navigated forward to this. I don't know why it's not working yet. Okay, there we are, that's better. So this is like a contents page. So we have what is it, why is it important? When we talk about it, we're talking about professional curiosity. We've got a reflective exercise, top tips, understanding what it looks like in practice, and how to refer, procedures and resources. It's still a really important bit. We always put it at the bottom, but it's really important that you know that everything that's in this resource refers and is in line with those procedures and how to refer. So if we click on what is it, it tells you what professional curiosity is. And if I press home, it goes back to this contents page. Why is it important? We go through to why it is important, and then we can click back to the page. Exercise and reflection. So again, it's a resource for you to use with others or on your own, but you need to think about why we're not professionally curious. So we know that people go into work every day to do a really good job. So why do sometimes we miss things? What are the barriers to us being professionally curious? Just asking some of those questions, being respectfully nosy. And so we look at some of the barriers, and we also look at perhaps how we can overcome some of the barriers. And what we also recognise is that where there's barriers, sometimes and often that's about confidence, and confidence is about how we feel in our environment in terms of how we're supported. And so we've got a little bit about supervision and leadership and how they can support their staff or volunteers or people that they're working with. So there's a few tips there for supervision and for managers there. Okay, so if we go back to the contents page, we've then got top tips. So top tips, under each one of these are some top tips. And this is all about the triangulation. So when we're talking about professional curiosity, we're talking about that triangulation, looking and listening and then asking questions, but really importantly, checking out. So checking out our hypotheses, checking out with other people, understanding what's actually happening in that household. And then if I just move this toolbar that pops up randomly, you can see that what we want you to do is always try to answer the question, how does it feel? Or why does this feel wrong? So if somebody's telling you something, and then the person that you're working with, you feel is trying to tell you something different. Why is there a dissonance there? What is it that you need to check out? If somebody's telling you that they're attending a particular course that you've asked them to, say perhaps a parenting course, or that they're a management behaviour course, are they actually attending? Just because they say they're going, are they really going? What is it that's making you curious? And we need to check out all those things. So where we feel something's not quite right, or there's that nagging doubt in our mind, we should act on it and ask some questions. And they don't have to be questions that are really invasive. And we've got some examples of questions as well. So this understanding what it looks like in practice is really the crux of this resource, because what we've got here are 7 scenarios. For each scenario, we want you to think about what is worrying you, who would you talk to, what questions might you ask, and where might additional information come from. So 4 questions for each scenario, and there's 3 scenarios that refer to children. So there's Oliver, who's a baby, there's Jay, who's 10. Oh, my clickers keep going. There's Leanne, who's 15. And then we have 3 for adults. We've got John, age 32, who has a disability. We have Dora and Keith, a couple that we have concerns about. And then Tom, age 75, who we also are worried about, who might be making friends with him. This one is an environment. It's contextual safeguarding, if you like, and we're worried about this environment. It's a house with lots of people. There's transit vans and nice fancy cars coming and going. There's lots of rubbish. So we're quite concerned about what might be happening there. And so what we do with each one is we ask these 4 questions. What is worrying you? Who would you talk to? What questions might you ask? Where might additional information come from? And then we have some answers, some potential answers. These aren't the right answers. They're just for you to think about what you might ask. And if you're doing it on your own, you know, to give you some reassurance that you're thinking about the right things. And it gives you some questions you could ask as a pregnant woman in this environment. We could just ask her, are you feeling okay? When is your baby due? This could start the conversation, could open up. We could see whether she's got any sort of antenatal support, if that was okay for us in our role. So we're not necessarily asking you to act outside your role, but just to ask some more probing questions if you do have concerns. So if we think about the baby, because we know we have lots of case reviews where we have concerns and there's been issues around babies, and this one is something quite innocuous really. It's an unknown male, so a man's been dropping Oliver off. What do we need to know about him? So instead of not sort of responding to the fact that we don't know who this man is, we should think about these questions, and then we could speak to the man. Hello, I don't think we've met before. My name's Jo, I'm Oliver's key person. Can I ask you who you are and your relationship to Oliver? That's a really simple question, trying to find out who he is. And you can see we've got what is worrying you, who would you talk to? And of course, in the who would you talk to, we've got observe Oliver, because Oliver is not speaking yet, he can't tell us. So if we're working in a nursery, or if we're familiar with this age group, we would know if there was something different about Oliver, something that we were concerned about. And then perhaps if we go to our couple, Dora and Keith, so there's quite a lot going on with Dora and Keith. Dora has dementia and Keith has severe arthritis, but he's her full-time carer. And neighbours have been hearing worrying shouting, Keith shouting that he will kill himself if she disobeys him. So quite concerning things that we're hearing, but they've refused any help. We don't think they have friends and family. So now we've got an in because Keith has actually agreed a visit for a carer's assessment. So again, we ask ourselves these 4 questions and we think about what the answers can be. So the answers are here for you. Some answers, like I said, not, you know, they're not the right and wrongs, but they're what we should be thinking about, where our mind should take us if we're in this sort of situation. And thinking about the adult or the child that we're working with and talking to them or observing them alone and perhaps in an environment where they're with other people. So all of those things are really important for professional curiosity, and they're all in this document. And then I did say that they were really important, and they are. So at the end, we've got how to refer, so that's for children's and adults, because this is a document that, as you can see, goes across all services. There's safeguarding adults guidance and procedures. There's safeguarding children guidance and procedures. And what we'd like you to do is actually click on the links and read those procedures, because we spend a lot of time doing procedures. They're very accessible, and they will help you when you're in those sorts of scenarios. And then at the very end, we have other resources that have been developed and that are relevant in this situation. So that, as you can see, is the end of the resource, and it's also the end of my presentation. So I just wondered if anybody had any questions, or whether we would, or if not, anyway, that's me finished, if you like. So
yeah, I think we can take a few questions if people have any.
no questions.
No questions.
They are readily available, that one and the previous one, for people should they wish to use them.
Will these be monthly or less than that? You know, how often will they be updated?
So we'll continue to update the ones we've already done, but when we're looking at doing other ones, they take quite a while to actually prepare, because we liaise with people from different agencies, then we check out what we've done. So I'd say sort of probably only 2 or 3 a year we'd be thinking of doing. And we are actually at the moment as well looking at a package for managers around professional curiosity, so about how you could grow professional curiosity in your staff and your staff teams. So we'd include this resource, but we're looking at other ways that they can build that professional curiosity as well. So like I said, it's about confidence, isn't it? So how can we build that confidence in our teams and our workers?
Anybody else got any questions?
I apologise, it's me again. I was late because I was dealing with something in school. Is there a way to sign up for these so that the email comes to you to alert you that there's something new there, and or like the newsletter, or do you just have to sign in randomly?
There is a list for the newsletter, isn't there, Helen?
Yes.
So, and I think now actually having asked that, I think we probably could send the link out with the newsletter. We usually include new ones in the newsletter, but we could send that link as well. So
yes, yeah.
So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, we'll put they have to email the LSC.
Yeah, the link's in there. I think it's in the chat already. The link for the newsletter is in the chat. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Perhaps if we repost, if the person was late joining,
yes,
it might be.
Yeah.
Okay,
Darius just put a form in there as well to sign up for Safeguarding Matters.
Okay.
Can I just ask? Is there any chance that the links can be emailed as well as in chat? Because I'm not very technological, and I can get access links from chat from emails, but not from chat. That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah. I know it's difficult. You know, you assume that everybody's got the same sort of technological devices, and of course they haven't. And I know some people are accessing this by their phone and sort of things like that. So yeah. Yes, we will try and get the information out to everyone. Okay, I'm going to just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to check my where we are on the programme. So okay, yeah, good, we're on time. I'm going to just run through some stuff around financial abuse, and then I think we might have just a 5-minute leg stretch and then start again, if that's okay. So let me just share. Okay, just need to check. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see the PowerPoint? Yeah. Okay. So this is the presentation on some work that we've been doing around financial abuse. Unfortunately, Joe, who was due to do the presentation today is unwell, so so I'm going to just go through it. Under the Care Act 2014, we have a category of financial abuse. It's not a category that we have in children's safeguarding world. However, obviously financial abuse can occur with children, and particularly in situations where you have a child who has care and support needs, and perhaps are in receipt of particular benefits, and sometimes those benefits can be not used for the purpose that they were intended. So you know, although the focus of financial abuse is often very much on adults with care and support needs, it does happen in the children's world too. So here we have our definition of financial abuse. So it includes financial, it includes money or property being stolen, defrauding, people being put under pressure in relation to money or other property. And so you can see how financial abuse could link to issues around domestic abuse, coercive and controlling behaviour, and the misuse of money or property. So we have indicators of financial abuse, and again, this is about going back to what Liz was saying around professional curiosity and observation, and you know, triangulating information. You know, if someone says that they are doing their shopping, or that they're eating well, or whatever, and they're obviously that they're not, they're living, you know, there is a change in living conditions, there is you know, perhaps signs of neglect, a lack of heating, clothing or food, you know, and people are losing weight. There's an inability to pay the bills, so electricity has been cut off. Unexplained withdrawals from an account. Yeah, unexplained and loss of misplacement of financial documents. And the recent addition of authorised signers on a client or donor's signature card. Again, you know, it's about people's intent, if you like, of becoming or having some sort of power of attorney, you know, to making understanding whether those things are being done in the best interests of the person concerned. And as it says, the list is not exhaustive, so types of financial abuse, obviously theft, fraud, exploitation. A big one at the moment are scams, and there's a lot of, you know, there's been a lot online and lots of information out there in the media about scams, and you know, it isn't just older people that are victims of scams. You know, we're all I think have to be really careful, and the scammers becoming more and more clever at doing these things. Coercion, obviously in connection with finances, and withholding of money. So just a little bit about the Office of the Public Guardian, or OPG. It's a government agency, and it is responsible for taking action where there are concerns about an attorney, deputy or guardian. They register lasting and enduring powers of attorney so that people can choose who they want to make the decisions that are important to them. They maintain the register, supervising deputies and guardians appointed by the courts and making sure they carry out their legal duties. Often deputies are, sometimes that can be obviously the local authority. And then looking into reports of abuse against registered attorneys, deputies or guardians. So what we've been doing is working together with the Office of Public Guardians to produce some videos, and what they include are how safeguarding across Leicester, Leicestershire, Rutland links into the Office of Public Guardian, how the Office of Public Guardian investigates, and there is also a question and answer video. We went out to a lot of people to ask them, you know, what would be your questions for the Office of Public Guardian, and we had a list of questions which we then put to them, and we've recorded that. Now, it would have been nice to have had the videos to show you today, but unfortunately they are in the last stages of being edited, and we will be publishing them, and we'll publish them on our YouTube channel, which you will have a link to. We will make sure you have a link to. So that is the resources that we are working on at the moment. So the information that you can get from the Office of the Public Guardian is as it holds a register of everyone who has a lasting power of attorney. So if you've got any queries about that, and this can be searched to find the contact details of those involved. So local authorities, police and NHS staff can find out about the information it holds on the register in England and Wales by asking for it. So, you know, sometimes there is confusion, sometimes the adult themselves doesn't know who has the lasting power of attorney. Sometimes people think they have, and sometimes people think they automatically have lasting power of attorney because they're a relative, you know, because they're the daughter or son, and they think, oh well, it's, you know, automatically me because I'm next of kin. Well, that isn't the case. It has to be done legally. And we've got a number of links here for your urgent inquiries and register searches. And then it tells you here about what information the Office of the Public Guardian can disclose. You will be told if it is for health and welfare, because obviously there are two separate parts of it. You know, there is people who can make decisions about someone's health and welfare, and someone can obviously make decisions about property and finances. So obviously the registration date and the contact details, and if there are any restrictions on a power of attorney or a court order. If an attorney has authority over life-sustaining treatment for the donor, and how attorneys or deputies are appointed to act where there is more than one. So people can share the responsibility. You often find that in families that one person has enduring power of attorney over one aspect of someone's health and well-being, and the other person has financial responsibilities. But if there's two people that share, you know, then both have to agree to what is going, you know, what the issue is in question. So I've got a few things here about scams. So obviously scams can range from simple things to the very sophisticated and obviously high value financial fraud. So the most commonly reported are those phishing emails to get people to disclose their personal details and passwords in order that they can access banking. Telephone scams where people pretend to be the receiver's bank. in order to gain access. Sadly, relationship fraud, where scammers cultivate a virtual relationship, and again, you know, you can see how easy that can happen. Easily that can happen, and I think particularly if we're talking about people who are perhaps elderly, particularly vulnerable to and maybe lonely, and you know, they can so easily get drawn into these things, but can also get so easily coerced. And sometimes, you know, threatening behaviour threatens, you know, people are threatened and they become very frightened and don't like to report it because they feel foolish about, you know, what has happened. And then we have the doorstep fraud, you know, actually delivering, well, saying they'll deliver a service and they never do deliver it, or it's very poor quality, or the price of the service goes up and up and up. And I think many of us will know of examples of that. So I have a number of links here to reporting scams. So we've got for Leicester City and Rutland, it's Citizens Advice, and for Leicestershire, the Trading Standards. And then there's Action Fraud as well. And then there are a number of links here for advice and information. Leicestershire Police, and again, Leicestershire Trading Standards, Rutland Trading Standards. There's some really useful information on those pages. And that's it. I'm sorry. I mean, obviously that wasn't my presentation, so I was a bit like reading it and as I went along, and I'm sure Joe would have done it much better than me. But has anybody got any questions about financial abuse? No, I've got shaking heads, and we already have quite a bit of information in the Safeguarding Adults procedures anyway, so but this is all going to be additional, all the stuff that we share on and the videos. Obviously we will let people know when the videos are live, and like I say, you know, again, these things are tools. It's for information to be used in you know, for yourself or for new staff that are joining, for discussion in team meetings, in unit meetings, wherever, just to generate some discussion. A lot of what we provide is advice and guidance, but it is about generating discussion about real situations. It's about applying it to situations that you are aware of, and that's our aim. I'll hand over to you, Alan.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Yeah, I'm going to do a quick run through about the change in the approach to what we've previously talked about, fabricated or induced illness, and before that were many other titles, including Munchausen by proxy, etc., etc. The Royal College of Paediatrics has developed a new kind of approach to this, and is looking at splitting it up into cases where there are medically unexplained symptoms or perplexing presentations that don't seem to add up, as opposed to just definite fabricated or reduced illness. It does include both, and hopefully we'll try and make it clear what the difference is as we go through. The Royal College has stipulated what the essential principles of the new approach is. It's the importance of looking at the functional implications of a diagnosis rather than the mere fact of the diagnosis. So what should the diagnosis mean to how the child would be able to perform and act and so on. The essence of FII is where the parents are focusing on trying to convince doctors about the parents' erroneous view of the child's state of health, which isn't the correct state of health. This behaviour may or may not include deception. I mean, sometimes the parents may believe exactly what they're presenting and have a deep conviction that they're correct. But sometimes they may be deliberately trying to deceive the medics. Parental behaviour may be motivated by anxiety, the erroneous belief about the child's state of health, and or gain for the parents. That might include being able to obtain disability and living allowances and so on. Or it may be that the parent doesn't want the child to go to school because the parent wants to keep the child at home. There should be a move away from the inability to inappropriately challenge parents because of concern about FI, except where challenging would put the child at immediate risk. So the old days of FI, what used to happen is somebody had concerns, they would contact either someone in health or social services, a strat meeting would be held, and the parents were kept out of it. And the idea now is to involve the parents from the very start, so that we don't get into such an adversarial sort of predicament between the parents and health and social services and or the police. Next slide. Alerting signs of possible FI must, however, be considered and investigated appropriately, but the emphasis should be on the harms occurring to the child rather than the need to confirm evidence of FII. So the welfare of the child is always at the centre of the discussion, as it should be according to the Children Act. If there is a criminal investigation, then the needed investigation should be incorporated, and this might require cooperation between senior managers of various agencies in order to make this effective. Unless illness induction or deception are found, establishing FI depends initially on clarifying what the actual state of the health of the child is. And that's what this new approach is about, is trying to clarify really what is the health of the child rather than what the parents are presenting as the health and state of the child, and then gauging parental reactions and responses in the light of these findings. Okay, next slide. It may be necessary to independently observe what is reported. For example, if the parent is saying that the child is has to be, say, in a wheelchair or whatever, but at other times the child can be seen to be running around the neighbourhood, and then clearly that may help to clarify the situation you're in. As I said, it's the focus is now very much on, is there harm occurring to the child, and does that present any immediate or serious concerns about their health and welfare? We've just been hearing about professional curiosity, so I won't dwell on that. Then, unless there's significant risk of immediate serious harm, there should be a need for sharing information between different professionals involved in the child's life. But this should also be discussed with the child and young person and their parents, whereas in the old protocol for FI, they would be excluded from that as the FI investigation was progressing. And as I said, it should be done in a non-confrontational manner. And the idea is that, for, say, for a medic saying, well, to the parent, look, I don't really understand exactly why you're saying child's got these symptoms, or how you think the problems are. It doesn't seem to, there's something that's confusing. We need to clarify that, rather than saying we don't believe what you're telling us. It's kind of saying, well, we hear what you're saying, we need to try and get to the bottom of it, try to work towards a solution. The next question, and next slide, please. The next thing as part of the new protocol is that when we're investigating these cases, if we stick to the ones particularly where it is thought that it is more of the perplexing presentation type case rather than the frank FII, there should be a health and education rehabilitation plan agreed by the professionals and families. And this should take place even if social care aren't already involved. There needs to be honest communication with professionals, unless this will place the child at serious risk. And of course, it's always difficult, you know, when we get these sort of statements and things, exactly what do you mean by the risk of serious harm? It's like when we're doing child's serious case reviews and so on, whether they should become one, and we're looking at the national sort of guidance to what cases should be considered for an SCR or a child safeguarding practice review, and we often have debates in the SCR group of what evidence we have that serious harm to the health of the child has occurred, and it's a sort of problem definition of exactly what is serious to somebody may not be serious to others. Now, the other thing is that the responsibility for initial management and collating the health involvement is with the responsible consultant. And the responsible consultant, however, should seek advice and support from senior colleagues and tertiary specialists where involved. And for example, in my safeguarding roles today, I'm often contacted by other colleagues, both within the community and the hospital and from the CCGs, to discuss cases and to add my experience to what is being considered. Next one. Okay, so there's new terminology now. We're talking now not necessarily just FII, medically unexplained symptoms, and the symptoms the child's complaining of may be presumed to be generally experienced, but they're just not experienced by any known medical pathology that we have to date. The symptoms are likely based on underlying factors in the child, which may be of a psychological nature, and this has to be acknowledged by both the clinicians and the parents. They can be described, we sometimes talk about functional disorders, and for example, particularly with children, young children with abdominal pain, we talk about functional abdominal pain, which is sometimes then thought to be part of what we call abdominal migraine. And there may be abdominal bodily sensations that cause pain and disability by affecting the normal functioning of the body. The parents and health professionals need to now work collaboratively to achieve evidence-based work in the best interest of the child and the young person. So, you know, the idea is we're now saying, look, we understand that there are concerns, you've got concerns, your child has concerns. We don't necessarily understand exactly what's going on, but we're going to try and get to the bottom of it and get a resolution of the issues. Moving on. So perplexing presentations describes the common encounter situation when there are potentially alerting signs of FI, but they may not amount to full FI. The actual state of the child's physical, mental health, neurodevelopment is not clear, but there is no perceived immediate risk of serious harm to the child's physical health or life. If there is an immediate serious risk, then this does immediately move into the FII spectrum, and we need to take action if we feel that there's a serious risk to the health of the child. The essence of the alerting signs of perplexing presentation, discrepancy between reports and presentation of the child and possibly independent observations of the child. Also implausible descriptions, the parents claiming that this sort of symptoms occur and there's no possible way that that could be happening. Moving on. FII, however, is a situation which is quite different, well, not quite different, but is a greater extension towards the harming area, where the behaviour and action of the parents is carried out with the aim of convincing doctors that the child's state of physical, mental health or neurodevelopment is impaired, or is more impaired than is actually the case. And this is often part of the problem with a lot of the FI cases which I've had to deal with over my 40 years doing safeguarding, is that there may well be significant medical problems the child, diagnosed medical problems the child has, but then there's other symptoms being added into it by the parents, and it's trying to sort of dissect, yes, well, actually this could be related to their known medical diagnosis, but this extra bit that seems to be added in, pushed in by the parents, is what we're really concerned about. Sometimes the parents may not necessarily intend to deceive, and their motivations may not be initially evident. Sometimes they are intending to deceive. Those are probably the more dangerous cases, where the parent is literally trying to trick health and other professionals into taking actions that aren't in the child's best interest. Illness induction or fabrication of symptoms or deliberate induction of illness in a child is, however, physical and emotional abuse and should be considered as FII as opposed to a perplexing presentation. If there is evidence that the child's motivation for harming the child is to convince doctors that the purported illness is in the child, whether or not there are recurrent presentations to health and other professionals, and this can particularly be important in cases of suffocation and poisoning, because when these sort of cases occur, and I'll show you an example in the slide later, the outcome can be very serious or even fatal. The other harm that we're always very worried about, the medics end of this, is the harm or illness caused by unnecessary medical examination or treatment that doctors, in working what they feel is in the best interest of the child on the basis of the medical the information that being provided by the parents and carers, and children get put through unnecessary, unpleasant and potentially dangerous investigations. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm just going to show you just a few cases, just to give you a flavour of what FII is, opposed to what are perplexing presentations. This was a case I dealt with when I was working at St Mary's London when I was a registrar, and it was a 4-year-old girl with a family history of inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's and colitis, and she presented with abdominal pain and rectal bleeding. And the mother showed good evidence of the rectal bleeding by bringing in several pairs of the girl's knickers stained with blood. However, when we were doing the clinical examination, it was relatively unremarkable, and particularly inflammatory bowel disease, when you do a rectal examination, and usually there are clinical signs such as rectal fissures and so on, which weren't present. But on the other hand, she didn't like abdominal palpation and would wriggle and sort of moan and groan when trying to palpate the abdomen, which is a sign of inflammatory bowel disease. So we're a bit confused. There's a typo here because it's meant to say that the nurses never see any PR per rectal bleeding on the ward. When they were changing, they never found any blood-stained underwear. And so we had the bright idea of analysing the girl's underwear, and it wasn't stained with the child's own blood group. It was identified as the mother's own blood group, and what she was using was saved up menstrual blood to stain the child's knickers to try and trick us into doing unpleasant, unnecessary investigations for inflammatory bowel disease, which might include colonoscopies, barium enemas, and so on. Fortunately, we managed to pick this up before the child was put through horrible investigations at the time. This was another case for the Royal Infirmary, trying to give you the sorts of things that parents will get up to. Child had previously had epilepsy, but had been taken off medication because the seizure seemed to have stopped. And then she was admitted drowsy to the Children's Hospital and thought might have meningitis, but she then, sorry, it was a he rather, not a she, he collapsed with a respiratory arrest in a cubicle on the children's ward. He was successfully resuscitated, thank God, and there was no obvious cause for the arrest. But then on a urine toxicology screen, which we always do those sorts of things if a child suddenly arrests and we can't think why they should, and we found high doses of anticonvulsants. And the hospital stopped the anticonvulsant medication quite a number of months before, but the mother continued to get a continuing supply from the GP practice, and then gave a massive overdose, which caused this arrest. This could have obviously led to the death of the child. The result of that was a change in practice, that GPs were to be alerted for confirmation that any letter from the hospital saying we've just reviewed this child in clinic, we've stopped their anticonvulsants, we were asking for confirmation back from the practice that that had been acted on and had been taken off repeat prescriptions and so on. Because back in the old days, often letters in the hospital that be arrive in the practice would get sort of just filed by the administrative staff and the GP not reading them at the time, and that would have led to the potential of these cases occurring in future. Right, another one. This is perhaps the most alarming one. It was a baby of 3 months with alleged reflux and failure to thrive. This is when I was senior registrar in Nottingham, working on the ITU, PICU ITU. So this child had alleged reflux, mother saying regularly bringing back feeds and was losing weight. So the obvious diagnosis was reflux, but when we did a barium swallow and 24-hour esophageal pH monitoring, where you put a little probe down through into the esophagus from the nose, measuring the pH to see whether there was acid reflux occurring or not. And these were normal, and the baby was an inpatient on the baby ward. The milk feeds were being prepared by the hospital nursing and dietetic team, and yet despite normal feed volumes, the child wasn't gaining weight. This was an absolute conundrum. We couldn't work it out. Then we thought of analysing the milk bottles that the child was having, and they had 50% of the osmolality. They were basically half-strength feeds. Mother was challenged, and she did then admit to opening the feeds that had been pre-prepared in the baby kitchen, adding 50% water, and that was the reason for the failure to thrive. So she was discharged on the child protection register, as was in those days, as a case of Munchausen by proxy. But then, sadly, 3 months later, she was admitted as a query cot death, and at post-mortem, there was evidence that she'd been suffocated. The mother was charged with infanticide, and I was on my way to Nottingham Court. I was about 10 minutes away when I got a phone call from the police officer in the court on my brother's old brick phone, and it said, "Sorry, Doc, you don't need to come. She's just changed her plea to guilty on the first day of the trial." So it just shows that when we have got serious concerns about AFI, we do need to take it seriously, and we do need to act, because the outcome can indeed be fatal. Moving on. Another one from Brighton I was involved with. This girl of 4 was being admitted with hypothermia, very cold, and no cause could be found. She then got treated for narcolepsy when she was getting sudden collapses, and was treated with a stimulant called modafinil, which is the normal treatment for that fairly rare condition. And despite repeated episodes, beside the treatment, there were repeated episodes of collapse. And this was difficult to understand. We're giving the right treatment. Why are these still occurring? A urine toxicology screen was normal, but the child remained sleepy. And again, we thought, what on earth's going on? A further sample of urine was then taken when the mother was not on the ward and was found to have diazepam not prescribed for the child. And what the mother had been doing is, when she knew a urine sample was being taken because she was suspicious that that she had already been fingered, she was providing a sample of her own urine, and that was analysed. The GP records of the mother then showed that she had been prescribed night sedation, diazepam, and she had been giving this to the child to try and fool the medics. The reason why the child was hypothermic then was discovered when the child was then carefully interviewed by specialist trained police officers, and she said that her mummy used to say she'd been naughty and would put her in a freezing cold bath water, and then once she was really cold was bringing up to hospital and then ending up with unnecessary investigations. Okay, moving on. Now, moving on to, those cases I've just gone through, they were FII. And I want to stress that FII, the real true blue FII, is actually very rare. These cases are not common, whereas perhaps the perplexing presentations are a bit more common. And examples of where we might be thinking about it, a perplexing presentation, is child said to have seizures by the parents, but they're only ever witnessed by one parent. They haven't been seen, they've never had a seizure in the nursery or in the school or in the grandparents' house or anything. That raises your suspicion. Maybe children presenting with lethargy, their parents saying they're very tired, which suggests they might have chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, as it tends to be called more nowadays. But at school, the schools say, well, we don't see that. The child gets up and runs around the playground like a good one. We've got a couple of those cases on the go at the moment in Leicester right now. Maybe also children with reported symptoms of ADHD or autism, but the normal behaviour is observed at school. So that's why when we're, as paediatricians, we're trying to make diagnose ADHD and autism, we're always looking for evidence in a different environment from the home environment to confirm that these conditions may be present. And then one alerting sign that something may be going on in terms of this sort of perplexing presentation is children collecting diagnoses that are difficult to confirm. And these might include headaches, abdominal pain, vomiting, cyanotic when it's apparently going blue. What we'll always be doing in this, certainly so with cyanotic episodes or with seizures, we'll be asking the parents to, if you had one, we'll take it. Everybody's got videos on their phones now, so they should be able to provide some evidence to help us sort out the wheat from the chaff. And then these new sort of range of diagnoses that the clever parents are starting to collect. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder where you get joint laxity and sometimes bleeding disorders and so on. Sensory processing disorder, where it's claimed that the child has problems with noises and textures and so on. ARFID is a very new one that's been described, which is avoidance restrictive food taking disorder, where the parents say, well, the only thing the child will eat is chicken nuggets and chips and won't touch anything else. And as a result, the child is failing to thrive and lose weight. And then the even harder ones to deal with and assess, the regional pain syndromes, where the parent, the child is saying is getting pains in the legs, or the legs and the arms, or the back, the abdomen, and trying to sort out what is real pain and what is maybe just perceived pain, and pain that's not there is very, very difficult to sort out. There is a pain clinic based in the Royal Infirmary, and they do their best to try and work out what's going on. Next one. Now, this is the new thing as part of the new protocol, that when we're looking at these cases of possible FII, but also just the perplexing presentations, we need to establish health and education rehabilitation meetings. The purpose of the meeting is to try and define the child's state of health and areas of continuing uncertainty about what, okay, we may agree that yes, we can see these things and we agree that they're present, but other things where maybe the parents are saying they've got this or that and the other, and we can't find any evidence from anyone else independently that that's going on. Also to try and work out what is the nature and level of harm to the child, because if the nature and level of harm to the child is serious and high, we may move from the EHRP, so H in the ERP, to a genuine FII Section 47 investigation. The meeting should also decide whether to commence a chronology, because these can be very helpful. That when we should, how frequently the meeting should be taking place, and then the really new addition to the whole approach to this is the requirement for specialist psychological therapy for both the parents, the perpetrators, and for the children. And that is something that is slightly holding up the introduction completely of the new protocol. Is we're looking for ways to find these are going to have to be really specialist psychologists who really know what they're dealing with. But we have got an active process going on looking for appropriate psychologists. One case has already been dealt with. In order to get the appropriate psychological support, we had to access professionals who are actually based in Essex. And then finally, any information given to professionals by the parents or carers outside the meeting need to be clarified with the other health agencies before anybody acts on it. Okay, next slide. If the parents agree to the health and education rehabilitation plan and want to work together with the professionals, great. That's the way forward. And we're trying to have, as I said, a non-confrontational approach. We're agreeing with the parents. Maybe we don't understand exactly what's going on, but we're going to work with you to see if we can resolve the problem. However, if the parents are refusing to cooperate with the plan, then it moves on to a situation where we need to inform and refer to children's social care and make sure that the parents are also informed that that referral has taken place. Next slide. I think I've just more or less said all of that. I think we could avoid that. Go on to the next slide. Okay. These are I think it's my final slide. These are the possible perceived difficulties that I see with the new protocol. One, identifying the responsible lead paediatrician. That may be because either there are loads of different, sometimes when these cases come to light, the child is already being seen by 3 or 4 different specialists in different specialties. So trying to work out which of those should be the lead paediatrician is sometimes difficult. Sometimes, however, these cases are referred to us to consider whether no paediatrician has been involved at all. They're only seeing people in primary care. So then there is built into the protocol a way of trying to work out who the lead paediatrician should be in those cases. Another thing is finding time for the health professionals to actually prepare unified health chronologies. You might think, well, why isn't it a matter of time? Surely, but people are busy. They've already got a work plan that is filled up, and then they're asked to create a health chronology. And one case that has become a serious case review in Leicester, the named doctor at the Leicester Royal Infirmary had to produce a 90-page chronology of events, which took her 3 weeks out of her working schedule to prepare, and she was working from about 100 files of medical health notes. So these chronologies can take an awful lot of time, so we need to find ways to give those that are being asked to do them to create them. Arranging the health and rehabilitation plans is going to potentially be difficult. Who's going to do that? Is that going to be the responsibility of the lead paediatrician? Is it going to be social care? As we know, trying to arrange meetings like this is often very difficult because people have got competing demands on their normal working week. Who is actually going to chair the education and health rehabilitation plan meetings? The hope is that the lead responsible paediatrician will be sufficiently experienced in order to take on this role. But we've never held these meetings, and these are going to be difficult because we're trying to hold meetings with parents who are concerned may be perpetrators and with the professionals and trying to do it. This is going to be very much a work in progress. There may be problems with school holidays because it is education as well as health. If school teachers and school or services aren't available, what are we going to do during the months of July and August and September? And then the final thing, the funding for the psychological support, we're trying to identify. It has been taken up by the CCG, and we are actively looking to and the commissioners to get this psychological support funded and to find appropriate psychologists to give it. Okay, next slide I think is the last, isn't it? Yeah.
There are 1 or 2 questions in the chat, which I've noticed. The interesting question from Iona: is there any research into why parents would behave in such a way? I know there was quite a lot a few years ago when I was practicing as a social worker, but I don't know.
We do know the classic sort of potential perpetrator. They are more commonly females, something of a ratio of about 5 to 1. They often have come from a medical, paramedical type background, nursing, therapy, whatever. So they've already got a bit of a knowledge of what diagnoses are about and how to access information about them, because part of the problem is if the parents, and of course it's much easier now with Google and Wikipedias and all these things, people can get information about diagnosis and then come along and present the symptoms that a child with that diagnosis would have. And so the medic taking the history in good faith thinks, oh, right, well, yeah, this does sound it's a case of this or that or the other. We also know that some of the cases are commonly, if we look back at the perpetrators' childhood, they were also presenting at the time with multiple medical problems which have been perpetrated by their own parents. So they come down a family line, as is the case with a lot of child abuse, that abused then become the abusers over time. Another group have been identified by research of parents who may have had maybe a premature baby, been on a neonatal unit for 2 months, watching what's going on, hearing what's going on, becoming really quite medically adept, knowing about symptoms and things like that. So yeah, there is quite a lot of information about the classic type of perpetrator.
So does this kind of issue ever happen with vulnerable adults? For example, parental carers of adults with learning disabilities. I mean, I know from my own experience that you know, it did happen with one of the young people that I was working with, and they, you know, there was lots of intrusive medical examinations which were totally unnecessary, and but yeah, I don't know, Alan, if you've got any thoughts on that.
Well, obviously, as a paediatrician, I'm not involved.
No, I know,
adults, but there's absolutely no reason why exactly the same might not happen with, you know, vulnerable adults and their own carers perpetrating and trying to get things done, maybe to get you know, increased carers allowances and so on and so forth. So yes, it's obviously equally applicable in adults, although I have no personal experience.
I think there's something about, also in my experience, it was about wanting to maintain that caring role, which had become so important. And you know, as the person got older and they didn't need the care, they were, you know, fabricating it so that they did need it. Anyway,
yeah, that exactly ties in with the classic sort of initial presentation of some of these cases, that the parent and the carers often are presented as fantastically caring and supportive parents, doing their very best for their children and so on. And of course that can hoodwink the medical and other professionals into believing everything they're being told and not having sufficient professional curiosity. We're going back to as to, you know, does this really fit together or not? I mean, it actually goes back to that Brighton case, that if we you know, as part of the kind of collecting the information you require to try and tease out what's really going on, it's always very important to try and get access to the parents' carers' own medical records, and that may be clues in what they're currently being treated for, maybe clues, as I said, when they were children, as to what things that were being done to them, which may well have been totally unnecessary, that were perpetrated on them by their own parents.
Thank you, Alan, very much for this interesting presentation. Just a reminder that it's important that people are aware of the information sharing protocol that we have, because again, often this is something that comes up in reviews about what we can share and what we can't share and with whom. Also a really interesting chapter on working with adults affected by child sexual exploitation and organised sexual abuse. I mean, one of the things that we are looking at as a safeguarding partnership is issues around transition, and there's currently some work starting on that, and that's, I think, particularly important for those children who have experienced child sexual exploitation and are actually going into, you know, are moving into adulthood and are still going to be very vulnerable to that. And a reminder of the Safeguarding Adults Thresholds guidance that again is very comprehensive. If you have any concerns about an adult with care and support needs and wonder whether it meets the threshold for safeguarding, then it's a really useful document that gives you lots of information about the various types of abuse. And then within the children's procedures, we have some updated chapters for you to look at. That's the children and families moving across local authority boundaries. That's really important that we, you know, we know how we're going to link in with other areas. And then the chapter on bruising marks or injuries of concern to pre-mobile babies and non-independently mobile babies. So again, we're back to the vulnerability of very small babies, and that's been amended and updated throughout. And then we've mentioned, obviously, fabricated or induced illness. That chapter has been updated. And children and young people going missing from home, and we've spoken about that earlier, so with Angela. The one or two things that I know that, you know, people are so busy, so this is, you know, I know it's a bit of a luxury if you can get to read anything, but I have here picked out a few things that I think it may be useful for people to have a look at, and because in a sense these documents are going to be very influential in how we move forward in certain areas of work. And the first one is the Liberty Protection Safeguards, LPS, and it's a briefing, a very useful briefing from SCI, Social Care Institute for Excellence, and basically it's for all staff, which actually explains what the changes will be when Liberty Protection Safeguards replace the deprivation of liberty safeguards. So what's going to change, what is going to stay the same, how you might start to prepare for the changes, and obviously within our organisations there is work ongoing there about how things may be structured differently. But it does, it's important to also for those people providing education or care and support for anyone over the age of 16. So we are into the children's realm as well. The report into the tragic deaths of Arthur and Star is now available, and it's obviously, it looks at how and why the public services that we designed to protect them, you know, we're not able to do so. So that makes for very interesting reading. So I would suggest, if you have time, to read that. And again, within your organisations, I'm sure there are people who are undertaking, you know, are looking at this and actually seeing what the implications are for your own service. And then the independent review of children's social care, obviously the final report there. And this is a quote from it: "This moment is a once in a generation opportunity to reset children's social care. What we need is a system that provides intensive help to families, acts decisively in response to abuse, and unlocks the potential of family networks, puts lifelong loving relationships at the heart of the care system, and lays the foundations for a good life for those who have been in care." So again, quite a radical change to the way that services may well be will be delivered in the future. So it's really watch this space. Any information that we get to the board, which we feel it would be useful to share with people, we do that. And like I say, we do it in different ways through bulletins and newsletters, and yeah, so we're trying to keep you up to date from a multi-agency perspective, but obviously within your single agencies, work will also be going on in those areas. Quickly, what time? We've got 4 minutes. There's some multi-agency safeguarding adult learning. The Leicestershire Social Care Development Group offer training to the independent and voluntary sector providers, and we have our new YouTube channel, which has only a couple of videos on at the moment, but I particularly like the Tricky Friends video, so people want to watch that. And we're planning some training at the moment around advocacy and the role of the independent mental capacity assessor, because again, mental capacity and its understanding of mental capacity is an issue for us. And then on the children's side, we have in September and October, building on experience of last year's, another festival of learning, back to basics, programme around families affected by imprisonment, obviously core awareness, safeguarding, designated safeguarding lead training for those outside of the school environment, because obviously that is provided by the local authority normally to those in schools. Child exploitation and ICON, which is I mentioned earlier for our bulletin, which is around babies crying. And all these events are accessible through this link, which you will get. And I think we've got to the end.